People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
On today's episode, we have another magic couple, Jason and Stacy Alan, or the Allens. I first met Jason at a magic convention back in 2008. We quickly became friends and have been friends ever since. And prior to the pandemic, 2020, they had the longest running magic show in Cleveland history. And we'll be returning to the stage very soon. Everybody, it's Jason and Stacy. What's up, guys? How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Nice to hear from you.
We're doing good. We're cold right now. We're in the RV, and the thing was unplugged all day, so we got the heater in the background. Sorry if you hear air, guys. But we have 1-year-old identical twin boys, and our 9-year-old daughters watching them, and we're out here hiding so you don't hear baby chirping in the background. So.
Well, that's a good excuse. Tell your kids that you're doing a podcast so you get some free time. That's good.
Yeah, they're like, why is your podcast 6 hours long when it goes on radio? It's only an hour.
Well, there's lots of planning.
That's funny. So, let's get started at the beginning, man. How'd you get started in magic? Let's start at the very beginning.
The very beginning. So that would be more me than you, because I ended up roping her into this world of
Still
cards.
not sure how I ended up doing this for a living, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. So I have the, I don't want to say typical background or way of getting into magic, but I was a huge fan of David Blaine when he came out. And I would have been about 12, 13 years old. And I think I saw his second special then. And it completely blew my mind, like it did to almost everyone that watched it. And I had watched a lot of Copperfield specials up to that point with my older brother, but this Blaine thing was huge. So I went and found all the information I could find at my library, which was the Mark Wilson Magic Book. And so I jumped into it and started to perform in school and to my friends and everywhere I could. And I was an athlete in high school. So it kind of took the back burner to that. I went into college and I ran track in college. And I kept doing magic on the side. And then one day I got hired to do a show, actually a kids show. So I started off as a kids performer. And you're doing a lot of family shows? You guys do a lot of family shows, right?
We do whatever pays the bills. You pay me, I'm there. We do resorts, we do family shows, we do
corporate stuff, all sorts.
You name it. You name it.
You're exactly like us. Yeah, that's it. We've been, I've been a full-time magician for 15 years now.
Yeah.
But the first show I ever got was a kids show, and I was supposed to do 45 minutes, and the client kind of forgot to tell me there wasn't 20 kids, there were 350.
Oh, no.
And what I remember from that is, as I walked out, before I walked out, I was getting booed already.
Oh, that's a heck of a start to show business.
Right? And my 45 minutes dropped down to 10 minutes, and I made my way off the stage as quick as I could. For some reason, I decided to continue through that. And I did a lot of kids shows in the beginning. I got better at it, but I could actually do 45 minutes. And then I got hired to work a cruise ship in the Bahamas, and I was there for 2.5 years. During that time, you and I...
Yeah, that's when we met, when you were working on the ship quite a bit, yeah. We didn't meet on the ship, but he was working on the ship a lot when we met.
Yeah. So at that point, I had been popping around doing a lot, like you said, a lot of corporate shows, birthday parties, everything in between as a solo act. And then when we finally got married, things changed pretty quick for us. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
So how was the cruise ships? Did you like it? Did you want to get back to land? How was that?
Towards the end, I wanted to get back to land. It was cool. It was really interesting. I got a lot of run time working on tricks because you were doing the same 20-minute set time after time after time on the ship that I was working on in particular. So I learned a lot, but towards the end, I was ready to kind of get home and stuff like that. It's the same thing every day. I can tell you exactly what music was playing at what time of day, what drinks were being served. So it was a fun experience.
Yeah, you always say it was kind of like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
Like it was new for all the people coming on, every few days, but for him it was the same, the same routine every single time.
That's something I've learned over my career. It's funny that, these people have these $1 million yachts and all this stuff. But if you're hired to work that $1 million yacht, day one, it's awesome. Then day 17, it's just another day at work. All the awesomeness just goes away so quickly, and it's weird how we become accustomed to that. So some of the resorts I go to, I try to take time to appreciate it and just take in the beauty of the place and not get sucked into the mundane.
Sure, 100%. You hear stories about, like in scripting magic or books on scripting, like about how you have to continue to act like the stuff's new to you and like act like you're really into what trick you're doing. And I never understood that until I worked the ship.
Yep.
Yeah, the 47th time I'm doing the same joke about someone stealing towels off of, the boat. Like, I have to act like that's the original joke. Like, it's interesting. Like, that stuff comes into play, but exactly. It can turn into a job pretty quick.
So I have a magician friend that was performing in, I think it was France, and he was making $5,000 a week, and he only had to work 6 days a week for 15 minutes.
Wow.
And he hated life.
He had to do the same thing over
Because
and
he
over
had to
again.
do the same 15 minutes, and it wasn't creative for him, and it wasn't this, and it wasn't that. And it's like, dude, sit back, take it all in. Write a book. Put your next lecture together. Create something else. And you're only working 15 minutes a night, and his apartment was upstairs. So he only had to walk to work, do 15 minutes, and he's done. But he hated life. And it's like, you got to enjoy every minute of it, man.
100%. The one thing I used to do on the ship is I never knew if I was coming back the next week because contracts and change and people, do it. I used to go on and stay on the ship for about a month at a time. And then I'd come home for 2 weeks, then go back for another month or so. But every single time I assumed that I wasn't getting hired back. It was like a psychological game I did, so I had to do a good show. And hopefully I would do a good enough show for them to hire me again. And I had to start playing that, though, because exactly, it does turn into,
Yeah, otherwise you kind of settle in and just kind of go through the motions versus really putting your energy into it.
Right. And we've seen those shows where the magician was going through the motions, and it was very disappointing. So disappointing.
Well, especially when you talk your whole family and in-laws into buying $35 tickets, and we see the dude go through the motions that night, and you're like, no, he's really good, he's really good. Oh, man. All right, let me explain it to you. He's really good, but, I mean, yeah, he put no effort into tonight's show.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's go back to MAES. You won the competition the year that I saw you there, and I don't think you were there just 1 year. Was it just one time?
So I came back 3 years in a row.
That's what I thought. I thought it was more than just one. Okay. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think we did meet around 2008. The first year I went, I won Close Up, Stage, and the Comedy Award. I came back the year after that and just kind of hung out. And then the year after that, I actually performed on the bill. I love Maze. It's one of my favorite conventions. We were joking earlier about how I haven't been there and stuff, but it's our thing. But we need to go back.
Yeah, I would like to go. I've never had a chance to go to that convention, and I would really like to. I've heard really good things about it. So.
Well, it's a small one, and whoever's on the bill, you really get to know them. You get to hang out with them. So yeah, it's awesome. So how did you and Stacy meet for real? We just watched your Penn and Teller performance, and I don't believe any of it. And no, yeah, I can't believe patter lines. I can't believe a patter story. Go ahead, tell us how you really met.
To believe some of it, because it is pretty close to that, actually.
Well, I was really seriously trying to order a drink, and I wasn't hitting on the bartender.
But he was. That's real. That's the real part of the story.
We've been married almost 10 years. I would have admitted by now. Yeah, maybe I know better by now. Yeah. But no, it was actually in between the ship contracts. Mm-hmm. I am originally from the Youngstown, Ohio area, and some random reason I came up to Akron to hang out with a friend. And but this is my favorite statement from magicians here. You know, people always say you can't pick up girls. You can't meet girls doing magic. You actually picked me up because I was doing magic.
Yes, we just happened to be at the same bar, and I actually really love magic and never thought I would do it for a living. Never did magic before meeting Jason, but I just always really liked it a lot. I have 2 brothers, and both of my brothers really liked watching David Blaine as well, and David Copperfield. So I grew up watching a lot of magic specials, and my older brother, he like played around with magic. Like he'd watch David Blaine and try to learn a few tricks, and he'd always try them on me. So I was always really interested in it. And I don't know, I saw him at the bar, and he was doing magic for the bartender.
What are you drinking?
Just ordering a drink, he said.
And I don't know, I thought, first of all, I thought he was very attractive. Then I also thought it was really cool that he was doing magic, so I walked over and had him do magic for me, and we got engaged a year later.
Aw.
Wow.
Nice.
She saw my double lift and was impressed with it.
Well, she shouldn't have saw the double lift. That was the... So, yeah, Natalie and I met. I was doing restaurant, and she was a waitress, and that's how we met. But anyway, she saw me wowing everybody in the restaurant. That was our story. But
So, kind of similar.
So, as a therapist, how does that help you living with a magician?
Well,
You should ask him how it is for me to live with a therapist.
yeah, that's probably a better question. I don't know.
Well, tell me about your therapist job. What did you do? What was it?
Okay, so
What's the real world like? I don't know. I'm a magician.
Well, I guess when you were talking earlier about this particular person who I don't know who it is, but who they were working the 15 minutes and they hated their life. And, you know, that's really interesting because that's something that I try to remember a lot when, you know, magic is still a job. And as much as I love it and we love it, there are times when it does feel like a job. But I always try to remember what it was like to work for a corporation, work for an office, and really spend hours on end, you know, away from home, away from Jason, and having to dedicate a lot of my time for someone else. And one of the things that I really love about what we do now is all the effort we put in, we get back tenfold. And I try to remember that when things get tough or when things are difficult.
When we first met, Stacy was a family and marriage counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And you were working how many hours a week?
Oh, gosh. I worked for one of the largest nonprofit agencies in our area, in inner city Akron, and I probably worked on average, 60, 65 hours a week, and sometimes I was on call. So I had a caseload of my own clients, but I also supervised other therapists and other case managers. So I also oversaw all of their cases, and I worked with a lot of really high-risk cases. So I had a very stressful job and a lot of liability on my shoulders. And I loved it. But I don't know. It's just, that gets difficult over time, and the stress gets to you. And like I said, now, as much effort as I put into this job, I get back. Whereas in other situations, other people benefit from that, or you don't always get what you put into it. So I try to remember that when things get, difficult or stressful with this job.
Well, I just said therapist on your website, so I didn't know it was marriage counselor. We just had a marriage counselor on our podcast last week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
And yeah, she's on the same television network that we're on, Jewel TV. She has a TV show coming out. But I mean,
cool.
You can work your butt off, but if they don't put the work in, it's all for nothing. So,
absolutely.
and that's got to be frustrating because you're doing everything, and they go home and they throw it out the window.
Yes, and the hard part, so I did both marital counseling and I did some family counseling, and I worked a lot with teenagers. But when you're doing marital counseling, absolutely, one of the hardest parts about that job, and I tell Jason this all the time, is sadly, most people don't come to a marital therapist until it's too late. They really, it's kind of like a last-ditch effort instead of earlier when they really could work on their issues and possibly work something out. I feel like a lot of people, it's kind of like, well, I guess we'll do this, and they've already kind of decided that it's not going to work, or it can be very difficult to have success with marital counseling, and it's generally because people wait too long to come and get help. You know, they think it has to be really bad before they see someone, which isn't true at all.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as the different jobs, I think always with Wes and I how spoiled we are, as well as when we don't have the same, you know, the 9 to 5 work hours. So we can go out and do things when it's not so crazy busy, and we are so spoiled. And when we're out on the weekend, like at shows or something, and we have to stop in a store and it's totally crowded, we're so spoiled. We're like, why are all these people here? The lines are out to wazoo. So that's a perk I've always enjoyed. You know, running your own business. You can take time off when you want to. You manage your own schedule. You know, it's just so much more free. Yes, I feel like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You really got to work at it to make it keep going. But it's so much more rewarding.
Absolutely.
That's the interesting part. Is with her background, working as a therapist. Mm-hmm. Before I was able to fully do this, I used to work. I worked in a factory. I actually worked at Walmart, where I practiced my tricks when I was in college and stuff. And you start to perform for the people that the same types of people you worked with or for. Mm-hmm. And so it's easier to remember, like, these people had to get a sitter tonight. They paid for a ticket to come to the show.
Right.
You know, like, but, you know, and it is a lot more work. Stacy always says that she actually works more now.
Yeah, I think I work more now, but like I said, we benefit so much from that work, and it doesn't feel like work in the same way. Because like what you just said, if I want to go to the store on a Monday afternoon because I want to, I can, where I couldn't do that before. You know, everything had to be a lot more planned out, and you know, now we do have a lot of those freedoms, which I really, really enjoy. I would agree with you on 100%.
Right.
Do you sleep in till 12:30 like my wife does?
Hey. Now, excuse me, wait a minute. Let me tell you, I stay up all night with twin babies. So I have night shift. He gets morning shift where I actually get to sleep. So don't let him fool you.
She's usually kicking me out of bed, so that's I feel you.
So what was the first time you saw him perform? Not at the restaurant. What was the first time you saw him perform a show?
I think it was on the ship when you.
No, it was on the ship. It was a local. I would say on the ship was like the first big performance that I saw you do. But I think I came with you to like a small private event at that restaurant in Canton.
A
small, like a back room of like a parlor show. Yeah, I think that was just a few weeks after we met.
I remember walking out of there and you're like, "You get paid to do this?" I'm like, "Yes."
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, you didn't say it's an insult.
No, it was not an insult at all. It was definitely. I think I've been your biggest fan the whole time. So I just everything that he did when we met, I thought was so cool. I thought it was amazing that he.
I was doing hypnosis also, obviously.
Yeah, he always says that. No, but I really was kind of enthralled by the fact that he had this skill that not a lot of people had, and he was making something from it, and I just was really intrigued by that. I thought it was great, so I really enjoyed going to any of his shows whenever I could, but, you know, I was working a lot, too, so I tried to go whenever I could.
You're my magic roadie.
I was. That was my first job with him, is that I just carried his stuff a lot.
This sounds so familiar.
Yeah, right.
This is
but then
exactly how it started for us too.
But it
That's
sounds
so
like
funny.
he solidified the relationship by taking her on a cruise and saying, "Look at me work." I mean, imagine on the big ship and showing your girl, "This is what I do when I watch all these thousands of people." Good move, Jason. I like it.
Well, she wasn't allowed to come to my place for the first 2 months. I took her to all these extravagant things. So when I finally revealed that I lived in my parents' basement, she didn't, she had seen all these great things, so she couldn't kind of turn around on me.
There you go. You had her hooked already.
It's all an illusion, man. I'm a headliner on a cruise ship living in my parents' basement. But don't tell anybody that part. That's not...
They're my roommate.
I was there with you. Yeah, you helped them out.
That's right.
What an angel. So how about your first show together, guys? What was that like?
So
Not being a roadie, actually together.
I like to tell this story because it wasn't like it was a freak thing. So I had taught you a business card. Can you talk about that one?
Yeah, I would consider that like our first kind of performance together. It wasn't really like a show, but it was our first time we ever performed together. Yeah.
I was talking to her about mentalism because you started performing a little bit of magic at the beginning. And I remember standing there watching you practice sponge bowls, which I have nothing against sponge bowls. I still do it. But it didn't match what she was doing. And, like, with a psychology background, like, why? I said, why aren't you doing mentalism? Like, that would fit. So I taught her a business card peek, and I got hired to do a Halloween party.
Yes.
And I'm doing stuff, and this guy turns and says, what does she do?
So you were doing close-up. You were walking around doing close-up. And yeah, I was just there, just hanging out, watching you do your thing. And the guy at the party said, what do you do?
Yeah, and she started to say nothing. And I said, here's what she does. And I had a card and I made you do the business card piece.
Yes. Yeah, kind of just threw me, feet to the fire. He was like, here, this is what she does. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never done this in front of live people before.
He did it. The event hired us for an hour and a half longer. And she just walked around and did business card peeks for an hour and a half.
Yes, which I would not recommend to
No,
anyone.
that's great though. That's good.
Yeah. So that was like our kind of informal first show. The big show that you performed with me at was for Chubby Checker.
Yeah, that was my first large stage performance with you, where I wasn't just carrying your stuff or handing you props. The first time I ever actually did a piece on stage was when we opened for Chubby Checker. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my first introduction to stage magic. It was like
so he had come to town to raise money for the
Humane Society.
Yeah, and they're doing this event at the big, which is now MGM Casino up this way. I think the audience is about 1,500 people, and the stage was a weird setup. There were no steps at the front. And I needed to use someone from the audience after I did my opener. And I said, you know what? I need you to cover 30 seconds for me. So I taught you Kevin James's bowling ball. You came out while I ran down. You did that trick in front of everybody, and I came back on stage. And that was your big,
Yeah, first time I ever did anything on the stage without him present, up there to basically rescue me if I needed him to. So, yeah, in front of a very large audience, and, for opening for Chubby Checker, so that was quite the introduction.
Did you guys get to hang out with Mr. Chubby, Mr. Checker? What do you call him? You don't just call him Chubby.
What to call him? We call him Chubby or Mr. Checker.
Right.
We got to meet him. He's more interested in talking to Stacy than me.
I totally get that.
He was very nice. I liked him.
He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, he was really cool.
That's awesome. All right, so I got to get down to the not so fun thing that's going on in your life right now.
Sure.
You had a health scare, and really halfway through these questions, I'm like, oh no, another one for Jason. Oh, another one for Jason. How's your throat? How are you holding up, buddy? Tell everybody what's going on.
Sure. I'm doing better. I'm doing well. Not great, but well. Back in about April, May, I had a minor surgery to help clear up a nose problem I was having. And about 2 weeks after surgery, we noticed a very large lymph node on my neck. Huge lymph node on my neck. Swelled up big.
I see it from across the room.
That was the beginning of May. By July 3rd or so, we found out that I had stage 1 throat cancer. It's not fun.
Well, to say the least, so. Yeah,
it's...
but you never smoked. Is it hereditary? Did they say what causes it, or did they know anything?
A freak thing that kind of popped up was the issue. I didn't... That's why initially when we found this thing, they were trying to put me on antibiotics.
Yeah, they really didn't lead us to believe that they thought it would be cancer. I mean, initially when I saw his neck, of course, my head went to the worst thing possible, and I was like, oh my gosh, cancer, we need to go to the doctor. And they were all like, oh no, he's really young, he's not a smoker, he's not a heavy drinker, it's probably nothing. Well, that nothing turned into something, so.
Yeah, it was rough because, I mean, like everybody else that's probably going to listen, or is going to listen to this, we had a year and a half of the pandemic with no work. We really didn't do any virtual shows or anything, so we were finally coming out of this and starting to book events. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, I get hit with, hey, you probably have cancer.
Wow.
We're 6 weeks out of this taping from my last treatment, and things are looking positive. I went through 6 weeks of radiation, which was complete and utter hell. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning, we just didn't know. We didn't know what the situation was. I went through this phase where I was watching a lot of Teller from Penn and Teller. I'm like, okay, if I lose my voice, I can be the silent one in the act, which, Stacy can talk. Like,
wow. Yeah, no, I totally get where you're going with that. Yeah. Just prepare for anything.
100%. And it took about 3 or 4 weeks for them to come back and tell us what it was and what it wasn't. Because I really, truly did. I'm like, okay, they're going to have to. I did the worst thing anybody can do in that situation. I started to Google it.
Oh, no.
Terrible idea.
And after 10 minutes and a breakdown, I'm like, I can never do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalie doesn't let me read any kind of bottle or of pills or anything.
He's not allowed to know. And if he has to be put on something, he's not allowed to have the side effects page. I'll look at that, and if I see something, then I'll be like, okay, that might be it. Because if he reads it, he gets all of the side effects. Like, if it's like, you may become itchy, he's like, I think I'm itchy. I don't know, I might be itchy. Or you might break out into hives. Honey, is there a red spot right here? I mean, he's a hypochondriac. It's awful.
There's a psychological name for that, right?
Yeah, I got it. I don't Google stuff like that.
That's the big thing with this. Like, I know better than to do that. I did it for 10 minutes, and I don't know. I instantly started to think the worst. And when we finally got into it, to be truthful, we don't to this point know if I'm in remission or not. I won't know until December. We had to wait 3 months. But I have no reason to believe that it didn't work.
Right. His prognosis was very good from when they found it, the stage that it was at, and the type of treatment that he received. I mean, he has a very good prognosis, so we are definitely trying to be as hopeful as possible that come December we'll have very great news. So we're trying to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Well, the Jason I met in 2008, 2009, 2010 was a strong, athletic build dude. So unless something really happened since the taping of Penn and Teller prior to you getting cancer, I mean, you still look strong and athletic, so that had to help you.
So it did. The Jason you met now, I have a lot less hair now.
Okay. Me too.
Well, it happens. My wife keeps telling me that my bangs look good, so that's all I ask. No, it's interesting you said that, because when I found out, between when we found out and insurance kicked in and we were going to do treatment, I had about 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I was in college, I was a decathlete. So I ran 10 events at a track meet. And I'm used to training. I'm used to eating right. So for 3 weeks prior to this, I was doing 2-a-day workouts. Mm-hmm. We were riding the bikes as much as we could. I actually went from 205 pounds up to almost 235.
Yeah, before treatment started.
Because the big issue with this is not being able to eat. I mean, the minute that I would stop eating, I'm going to lose weight like crazy.
Yeah.
It helped a ton. By the time I got to the last week, I was down to 190 pounds.
Wow.
And how tall are you, though?
6'3".
Yeah, that's skinny.
Yeah.
It's we actually started lifting again yesterday, some weights, and I'm able to do 2 push-ups now.
Yeah.
Which is expected. I mean, I get it, but yeah. The weirdest part though is that stuff helped me, but what actually helped was magic. because I wasn't able to do it and Stacy was, we decided the minute that I got sick, we had two options. We closed everything up and you went back to work or you did whatever, or Stacy continued through with her contracts. And so Stacy went from a duo act of her and I working together to doing a full solo act, which she actually did a show in Vegas towards the end there by herself. So
Hey, congratulations, Stacy. I'm proud of you on that. Good job, girl.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I've told Natalie if anything ever happened to me, I mean, prior to me talking to you about your scare and everything, but I told her, I said, if I died and, we got the business started, somebody's got to pay for the kids. I mean, we're putting money away for the kids and we're getting, the insurance policy and all that, but do it. It's fun. Keep it going. Don't get a real job. Good job, Stacy. I'm proud of you, girl.
Thank you.
That's, the big thing, like you said, the preparation we put in. When I started to do this as a living, I decided to read books on business, not strictly on magic. And, that's the one thing that kept us afloat through this, was that we always treated this like business. So having insurance and being prepared with an emergency, that type of stuff, it allowed us to sit back and have her continue on and keep working, which is great.
Yeah. It was definitely scary, though. I'm not going to lie. I mean, in our theater show, you mentioned in the opening that we have a theater show in Cleveland, and in that particular show, I do a lot of stuff on my own on stage. At one point in the show, I'm on stage by myself for over 20 minutes. So it's not like I've never performed by myself, but I don't typically doing a whole show start to finish, and also running the sound and doing all that. That's a whole other ball game. And so that was just, it was a lot of pressure. I had done it just a few times for small events. But this last event that I just did was for a very large and important corporate client of ours that we've worked with before. And we want to keep working with this particular client. So it was a lot of pressure.
Sure.
And I guess the worst part for me was it was also at the end of Jason's treatment. And it was when he was at his sickest. He was in a lot of pain, and he was really struggling from the effects of treatment, and I had to leave him for 3.5 days, almost 4 days. Now, we of course have family here who took care of him and watched him and hung out with him and made sure he had what he needed, but that was really hard for me to leave him at his worst and go do this job.
Wow, I can't imagine.
Yeah, that for me, the show was a little terrifying for me. It was just a lot of pressure, and it went very well. The client was very happy, and I felt really great after the show.
Was it a trade show or a show?
It was a stage show for a corporate client. It was a sales meeting, a national sales meeting. But it was a previous client of ours, but he's working with a new company.
Okay.
And of course
So this is like our first debut to this new company.
Yes, and he talked us up and, said how great we are.
The craziest part was we had spent a year trying to make this deal happen.
Land this gig with him.
And 2 days after I got diagnosed, they called and said, hey, we want to book you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. So it was a lot, but the great part was during all of Jason's treatment, despite everything he went through and despite how difficult it was for him, and let me tell you, just watching him go through it, I'm so proud of him. I don't even know how he made it through some of that stuff. It was terrible. I would never wish that upon anyone. But even through all of that, he helped me so much preparing for this show, just even when he wasn't feeling well, just helping me rehearse and working on scripting with me, and he taught me all of the sound. He sets up all our sound and works with the AV team, and we have an audio aid system, and he always runs an audio aid for us, and I never do that, and he taught me all of that, just made sure. And then the day of the show, we were not feeling great, and he was texting me all day, and he couldn't really speak on the phone, but because his mouth hurt so bad, but he was texting me all day, just making sure I had what I needed, and it was great. So to have him, do all of that was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you, a majority of the people that listen to your podcast are magicians, right?
It's a combination. I really don't know. It's a combination.
I don't know if anybody else will appreciate this story, but I kept trying to do magic as I was getting radiation.
Oh.
And I made the radiology tech scream. This is my favorite stories. So every time we go to radiation or go to have treatment, they would give you a ticket that they would stamp to validate your heartbeat.
Right.
And one day we went through and they didn't take it from us, so I had this extra stamp ticket that nobody else would have.
Oh.
When I go in to lay down on the radiation table, I snuck that extra ticket underneath the table and did like a transposition, ripped up, card to impossible location type deal. And it's my favorite story. The radiology tech freaked out.
Oh yeah.
Aww.
And I was out in the waiting room that day, and he had it on him for a couple of treatments, and I was like, oh, I don't think he did it today. I don't think he did it today. And I knew when he did it because I was sitting out in the waiting room, and I could hear all of the radiology techs like freaking out in the room with him. I'm like, oh, today was the day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
He must have been feeling good today.
That's great. Oh, and they'll never forget that. That's awesome.
So, Stacy taking the lead nowadays. How's that going? Has that, with her taking the lead, is that show scripted now, or is that just something we're planning in the future?
Sure. So, I'm jealous now with her taking the lead. I think
You have to wear skimpier outfits.
Hey, it's only fair.
Let me answer that one. So, my hope is that I don't have to do that show again.
Sure.
And the only reason for that is, don't get me wrong, I felt really great and confident after that show. I had a lot of fun on stage. My audience was awesome. But we had some friends up here recently, and we were talking about, me performing on my own versus performing with Jason. And, magic is Jason's passion. I mean, he loves everything about magic. And I love magic too, but I love it in a different way. I didn't come into magic the same way Jason did. I fell in love with Jason, and then I fell in love with magic. And it's a different scenario. But what I love about magic, for me, is that I get to do it with him. And I love the fact that we get to travel together and spend a lot of time together and, bring these people together and get reactions from them and just create this environment together. That's my favorite part about what we do.
I don't know. I saw the reactions you were getting. I'm still thinking about retiring.
I know. So for me, performing without him isn't it. It's not it for me. I love being a duo act with him, and I love performing with him. And we do our own things on stage, when we do our show. But it's just the idea of this is what we do together. That's so important to me. So I don't really ever want to be a solo act. So.
But what's interesting is, so we really put a lot of effort into, Stacy put a lot of effort into what she did for this Vegas thing. And it's the first time that we have like a solid script of like, here's what it is, here's what you're doing. And what's interesting is it's kind of an origin story of like who she is, like why I got into this and whatever. And so the show we wrote that opens back up in December is kind of a mixture of me telling how I got there, her telling her story, and then us doing this together.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it's transition. I mean, you're going to do probably about 80% of what you did there in this show.
Yeah, in our theater show, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so somewhere I read that Stacy was taking the lead, so that's already over. We're not going to have to do that because you can be back to normal, right?
I'm fine with it. Like I said, that's...
Okay, all right.
He wants a sugar mama. That's what he wants. He wants to sit back and have a sugar mama. Have her do all.
Money, that's all I want.
All right, so tell me about the theater show. Lay it all out in details.
So, Cleveland, Ohio. We're from Akron. This is in downtown Cleveland. And about 8 years ago, I want to say, this new hotel opens up. And in the basement of the hotel was one of the biggest banks from the 1920s on.
Yeah.
Massive bank. I mean, it was between New York and Chicago. This is the place where people would bring their riches to store it while they traveled, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they buy this hotel, and it is one of the coolest places ever. On the bottom floor is like a speakeasy / they call it the vault. It has all the original bank vaults in it. The hotel is amazing, and on the second floor, they open up a small parlor theater.
Mm-hmm. It's like a little cabaret theater. It's real intimate.
Sits 60 people. They're all lazy boy recliners.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's and so we were looking for a place to do our show back in 2018, something like that.
I think so.
17, 18.
I think 17.
And we randomly got hooked up with this place, the Alex Theater, and we went and did kind of an audition, and it stuck. It went really, really well. So the stage is very small, so it's kind of a parlor / you have to do bigger stuff for people back to see type show. We came in and we started to do this monthly, and we really got to experiment with your background, my background, the stage. We did it all the way up to the pandemic, and of course that had to stop. But we're heading back December 3rd.
Nice.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. How do people get tickets or find out? I mean, we know December 3rd you'll be there, but how do they find out when you're going to be there?
Sure. So our website is theallenslive.com. I think my link to Jason Magician still works too, but if you head there, I'm going to be posting all about the schedule, where to get tickets and all that stuff soon.
Awesome. Well, on social media, I saw that you guys even had a billboard for the Alex.
That's the best part. That's the coolest part.
Yeah, they have a really large electronic billboard on the side of their hotel.
Massive. And so,
how cool is that?
It's very cool, but also very odd.
Yeah, I'd always gone to Cleveland with my dad when I was younger to watch, baseball games, basketball games, and stuff. And so, going up there and seeing our picture on this massive, screen, we sat across the street like losers and kept watching it. Nobody recognized us on there that walked by us, but I kept telling them that we were up there.
Your friends come to town, ask to go to like Walmart or to dinner, and you always drive them right by that. Just 100%. I totally get it.
We had to keep circling the block though, because it's only up like once every a minute.
Yeah. There's all these other like paid ads that are up there, and then us, So it's interesting to see it up there.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
Awesome. Well, tell us about your Penn Teller experience. How was that for you guys?
Sure. It was. Would you remember any of it, or you?
Yeah. So I always joke that I'm sure you've heard of like performer's fog before. I definitely have that from that moment. Like, we prepared so much for that show, and Wes, I mean, you've done it, you know what it's like. I was really nervous. I was very nervous. I still get a lot of stage nerves. I mean, before I met Jason, like I said, I never did any of this stuff. I was never in theater. I never was a singer. None of this stuff. I didn't get up in front of people. So I still get a lot of stage fright.
Penn Teller, though, was
like next level stage fright.
A little background. We had auditioned for 3 years in a row before this.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the original story was always how we met. We could do this fun thing where she says one thing, I say another, and it's wrong, and things happen through that process. So we auditioned for 3 years, didn't get a call back. We got a call back 1 year, but we didn't get on the show. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we got this offer to do it, but it was during the height of the pandemic.
Yes, yeah.
So you of course you guys had a full audience because you did Flip, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It was right before everything went down. Like, we recorded, and on the plane ride home, buffets were shutting down. By the time we got home, Vegas was shut down. We got our taping in right at the last minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were out there in October of last year.
Okay.
So the issue we had is, I mean, being a worker like you guys are, you work material. You go out and you do something the first time you do it in front of an audience. You can tell what works, what doesn't. You cut it. We couldn't do any of that because we couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's what helped me with Flip. I created Flip in 2013. So, I mean, I had thousands and thousands. So when he challenged me, I just put my hands out like, let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go. So, yeah, God bless you. I know where your story's going.
Well, it's we've never done a lot of. I've never done TV at the caliber. I mean, we've done morning shows and stuff like that. But so we had this idea where, like, you would mention the color of my shirt, and I would mention the color of my shirt, and I'd say something, and it would change. And so we had to create all these things and kind of hope that they would play well. Mm-hmm. And we had a really fun team behind us. We worked with, are you familiar with Slide Club out of North Carolina, South Carolina?
I've met a couple members. One of the guys was at MAES this year with the Georgia Wonder, Tiffany. And but I can't remember the guy's name.
Scott.
It might have been Scott. He was like the leader of it or something. Yeah.
So we were really fortunate. They let us Zoom in weekly, and we would kind of show them like what we worked on that week. I mean, we did this for like 3 months.
Yeah, they were really helpful.
But the issue was when we would try to do this, we were zooming in with other people, like family members and stuff. And it's hard, almost impossible to get any read. I mean, timing is so off.
Right.
So we did all this stuff, and we worked through it. And I'm assuming that they probably did like a run through with you guys, and like Mike Close and those guys the night before you walked on. Like you guys did in person, right? With that stuff.
Yeah, we went to a little dressing room, and there was 15 people in the room. There was lawyers. There was a fake Allison. We did. Yeah, we did that in that room, and they went over lighting and all that stuff. And then we did a dress rehearsal on stage the following day.
Sure. So we had to do all of that via Zoom.
Yep, all via Zoom.
That sounds horrible.
It was like we had done this thing for like 2 months straight every day. I completely messed up, and like we wrecked the trick halfway through. I did. Yeah. I was doing something at the time with like a thumb writer, and it like exploded. So I had like black all over my head. It was
like everything that could go wrong went wrong during this Zoom call, and we were just like, we got off the Zoom call, and we both just looked at each other like, what just?
I'm like, I hope they let us go on the show.
Yeah, like I hope they don't invoke like our contract.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of the things they warn you. Just because you're here, just because you're in front of the live audience, we can still pull you. That doesn't mean you're going to air. So don't talk and don't tell anybody what happened. And yeah, they can still pull you.
Well, and one of the really tough things for me was most of the time in our show, you know, I'm doing mentalism, or psychological effects, and occasionally I'll do some magic things, or I'll do some magic things with Jason, but I don't do a lot of card stuff or sleights. And in this particular trick that we created, I am doing that. I am doing a card vanish and some other manipulation. And when we initially were asked to be on the show, they hadn't said yet that there was not going to be an audience. You know, we didn't know that yet because of the pandemic. And so I told Jason, I said, okay, you know, when I get really nervous, I'm just not going to look at Penn and Teller when I do these particular parts. Like, I'm just going to choose someone in the audience like I would do in our real show, you know, at home, and just feel comfortable that way by doing it, like playing to someone in the audience. Well, then I think it was a couple weeks before we flew out. They were like, yeah, so we can't have an audience.
No.
And I was like, oh. So now I have to just look right at Penn and Teller. So that's out the window. So that was...
So two of the greatest magicians in the world, and you're doing a card.
Yeah, I'm like, let me just show you my card sleights, Teller, because, you know...
Wow.
On par with yours. But I mean, I did it. It worked well at the live taping, but
it did. It really did. Your act was really nice. It went off beautifully.
Thank you.
I liked it.
I don't really remember it though. I was so nervous. Like I don't really remember doing it. As weird as that sounds.
So how was Penn and Teller's reaction when you walked out? When I walked out, they winked at me, they nodded me, thumbs up, and it was like, we're on your side, go Wes. We're on your side. And I just had a calm come over me, like, wow, I've been working my life for this, and here we go.
Do you remember what Penn said to us?
About break a leg or something?
No, he said, so they were very nice to us as well, but again, there was no audience.
The entire process was incredible. They were all nice. I don't remember any.
We walked out, and because they let us walk out and just like say hello to them, and then you kind of walked back, and then they said the cue, and you would walk out and actually do the actual shooting.
So in front of a live audience, you don't do that. They walk you out, put you on an X, and say, stay here until I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
So Penn and Teller were kind of like away somewhere, you know, due to COVID. They kind of kept them really far away from everyone. Everything was very quarantined. They were very particular about safety precautions, which they should have been. And so we were out on the stage first, just doing cues with the camera crew. Then they walked
and fake Allison.
And fake Allison. Then they walk you back behind stage, and when they do that, they bring out Penn and Teller. They let you know that they're there, so you kind of come out and you say hello. And then you come back and you do the whole thing. And when we walked out to say hello, Penn looked at us and he said, "All right." He's like, "Do your worst." Do that. And it was really fun. You know, he just said something to kind of break the ice and make you feel like,
sure,
okay, like, yeah, same thing. They're on your side. They obviously want you to do well, which was great.
Golly, so awesome. How was the projection screen behind them? Was that even on? Was it just on a loop? I've heard that it's on a loop and it's the same reactions over and over, which would be distracting for me because I'd want to look and see what's going on behind them.
Right. No, it was on. I don't remember.
I don't even remember if it was on.
I remember just standing there. I remember seeing the screen behind them and then looking at Teller. I'm like, that's Teller. Like right there. I don't know. I was like, because I'm a huge fan of, you know, their stuff. And it was weird with the screen. I don't know. It's a different perspective because you have the entire audience. I don't know if
I don't know what it would be like if we had the audience.
We're the same as you. We always feed off of a live audience.
Yes.
It was awkward. It was weird.
Yeah, they asked me to go back after I won, and I was like, I think I want to wait and just see what... They asked me to come back even before my episode aired because they were like getting ready to start taping the next season before my episode aired. And I'm like, I want to see what happens. I want to see how you guys edited. You know, because that 15-second intro, it took us 4 hours to film it. So
sure.
I would like to see what you guys did with that, and I want to see the backlash and the YouTube hate, and I want to see all of this. I don't want to just go right back on, and then with it being COVID, I'm like, no, I don't. That's not what I want to do. I'd rather wait and have a live audience. They had a comedian warming them up. I mean, this audience was hot, and they were having a blast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
It would have been a completely different set for us then.
Yeah.
Like, it's, we've talked about it. They talked to us a little bit about, you know, coming back and trying something. And I'd like to. I heard they're shooting another season here soon. I don't know if that's a live audience or not.
That's the problem for me. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when I wish, like, we could have gone at a different point, you know, and got to actually hang out with Penn and Teller and meet them a little more and do all these things. But you know, really, when I think about it, I'm just so grateful that we had the opportunity to get on the show.
Oh, it's a good story, too. I mean, when we went to Vegas, so we had to stay in the hotel for 5 days. 4 days? 5 days? 4 days. We had to quarantine and do all that stuff. But, like, we have a story about how the entire city of Vegas was shut down and we were stuck in this hotel.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting story, you know?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. To see Vegas that empty was probably...
It was so eerie.
Oh my goodness.
That's like
weird.
The Walking Dead or something.
Right?
So we were, when we got there, we've been to Vegas multiple times. We've worked out that way a lot. And you typically come in the airport and there's signs for shows, and like none of that was happening.
No.
Yeah.
And
So the signs weren't even up.
No,
not
they had
in the
taken,
airport.
like, in the airport, they had taken all the signs down. It was the craziest thing.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Rolled over to the Rio and, like...
The Rio wasn't even open. The casino was all blacked out and roped off. It was so odd.
Wow, that does have to be, like, out of a dream. You're like, this isn't real.
Yeah, I kind of felt like we were in The Shining. Like, the hotel was so weird.
Oh, goodness.
See, you didn't get the experiences we got. We have my 9-year-old daughter with us, and we're at the hotel, and some naked guy's running down the hallway, and security's trying to stop him.
And we're like, honey, look ahead. Why? Why? What's going on? No, just keep looking that way, please. Why, Mommy? Because.
Because this dude thinks what happens in Vegas really just stays here.
Yeah, no, we didn't have that experience.
Oh, my.
Wow. So, besides the December 3rd, what else you guys got going on?
So we are starting to tour a good bit. We're making dates for next year. At the end of this year, we are heading up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. That's where Stacy was born, where her family lives. We're doing a big show up in Kingsford.
December 29th.
December 29th. And then we're hoping at the beginning of the year to get more dates on our calendar for. We do a lot of theaters and small restaurant shows, dinner and theater shows.
Yeah, like dinner and a show type thing. We do a lot of those, and most of our work is private, corporate, like fundraiser, gala type stuff. But we're trying to do more public stuff. We want to have more public things like this dinner and a show that we're doing in Michigan. So we're trying to reach out to more venues like that, and we really enjoy them. And having just public people purchase tickets and come and see us, it's a lot of fun for us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And they can get all that stuff at theallenslive.com? All that info?
Yep, that's it.
And after your whole cancer scare and treatment and all of that, when will we know that you're completely out of the woods? When do I get a phone call saying, hey, I'm good to go, I'm on tour, come see me?
Sure. December 16th is the test, so we're hoping around that time.
Yeah, hoping by a few days after that we'll have some answers.
All good. I'm praying for you. All good answers.
Dude, 1,000%. We're both praying for you. We love you guys. We send a Christmas card to you every year. We haven't seen you in 10 years, but hey, we still love you, dude. We're on your side, man.
We're bringing the RV up to Ohio. When are you heading this way?
Right now, it looks like a rolling turd. I need to get it. I need to get it lettered with my logo on it and get it completely wrapped. It's an older RV, and the paint on the sides.
It's a good starter RV. Everything runs wonderfully, but it does kind of look like a turd. But we figured for our first RV to make mistakes in and screw up in, we might as well get an older one. And then once we learn and know what we're doing, then we can put a little bit more money.
But I've already priced it, so we're getting the entire RV wrapped in black, so it'll look like a black paint job, and it's going to have my logos on it, Full List Winter, all that stuff on it. And, it'll be good to go. But we had 48 shows in October, and they need the RV for like 4 or 5 days straight, so like Monday through Friday to get it, an RV wrapped. Right. And I didn't have that in October, so hopefully we can get it done this month.
Nice.
Now I want an RV.
Yeah, right?
Oh, it's so much. I didn't want one at first because it's big, and you have to warn everybody, hey, we're pulling up in an RV, and we need parking spot. But, with twin 1-year-olds, a 9-year-old, and then obviously we have to have a babysitter for during shows because I can't be on stage and watch children. So with all these people in one car, it is so much nicer to be able to spread out, get comfortable, have a refrigerator and food and drinks, a potty, all that good stuff.
Wow.
So our back bedroom is the equipment. That's where our equipment is. The rest of the RV is living space.
Yep.
Wow. Props to you guys, because we can barely do all our shows and take care of our dogs. So the fact that you guys have your entire family, kids in tow doing that's awesome.
Are they in the show yet? Are they doing tricks yet?
So our 9-year-old is in the show, but the boys are just taking a final bow with us at the end.
We mentioned they were born during the pandemic, and we bring them up for a final bow, and that's it. We just want everybody to see them. But we brought my little girl up at like 2.5, and she pulled a silk out of my empty hand. I show my hand empty, she pulled out a silk. I turn the silk into a dove, so she helps me, and stuff like that. But I mean,
start out small.
Yeah, it's a family show, so.
That's
yeah, man. And, we wouldn't see them if we didn't have them on the road with us because we're working so much. So,
sure.
I got them for 18 years. My little girl's 9 already, dude. It flies by. So, have them while I have them. Enjoy them while I have them.
Well, that's awesome.
How about you guys? When are we going to have...
Little Allens running around.
Little Allens.
No, we're getting better at this. We have 17 nephews and nieces.
Soon to be 18 nephews and nieces.
So we are the really good uncle and aunt. That's the way we look at it.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Well,
perfect. There you go. And that's always nice because you can spoil them, and then when they start getting upset and or giving you attitude, you can always just hand them back.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Well, thank you guys for doing this tonight. We are completely running out of time. Check them out at theallenslive.com. And seriously, guys, thank you guys so much. You guys were awesome.
Thank you so much. Have a nice night.
Hey, stay on the line real quick. I have a couple plugs, and then we're going to talk to you afterwards. Our TV show, Wes Iseli's Magiclife, is on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Android TV, the Jewel TV app, and tons of other places. It's in over 100 million households. All you have to do is look for it. And now it's in syndication, so check your local listings.
Woohoo.
Also, our show merch is available at wesisley.com. Magiclife t-shirt and television show and all that other jazz. Check it out at wesisley.com. See you next week. Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scene videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled Wesiseli.